vegetable farmers could soon be using electrolyzed water on their crops instead of chemicals. The health industry is already using it as a sanitizer, and now researchers in Tasmania say it could be a game changer for farmers. Electrolyzed water is made by passing an electrical current through salt water to create sodium hydrochloride, the most common ingredient in bleach. Long used in hospitals as a germ killer, now researchers say it could have a variety of uses in agriculture.
Quick applications that spark to mind are like disease suppression in field or cleaning of equipment, perhaps for biosecurity purposes, all the way through to washing fresh produce and extend the shelf life.
Agronomists have been testing the technology to protect onions from fungus. The 2-year-long trial with electrolyzed water has produced impressive results. Instead of 90% of crops being destroyed, they've witnessed a mere 10% loss. And farmers appear to be happy with the new technology.
And anything we can do to lessen the impact on the flora and fauna through the use of pesticides has got to be a great thing.
Researchers hope it could reduce the agriculture industry's reliance on chemicals. With a cheaper price tag, it could also prove more cost-effective for farmers already stretched to the limit.
How did you end up using the water? Did you use it to water with and as a pest management, or one or the other?
Both.
You used it for both?
Yeah.
Okay.
We watered with the 6.0 water, adjusted that pH to 6.5, and then we used it both the acidic and basic water for pest management, alternating between the two.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so for watering with the Kangen water, what did you notice?
Well, first thing I probably noticed was not all water is created equal. So we have really clean well water here. The EC and PPMs very low. Like, it's so clean that it's almost like DI water when you water your plants with it. So we have to kind of adjust the water to be able to use it. And so when running it through the Kangen machine, we get a really clean end product. We don't have the problems that we have if we just use the straight well water with the leaching of our nutrients. When you look at plants and they're praying and they're happy, when we're using just our straight well water, we didn't see a lot of that. Even though our plants aren't suffering from any, nutrient deficiency or any pest problems, for some reason the Kangen water, the plants just seem to always be happy. They're always healthy. Also noticed that on the test groups that we did with Kangen water, clones rooted faster, much faster. Growth rates with seedlings were faster. So yeah, there's a huge difference in just what we normally have been doing and using the Kangen water.
That's awesome.
You see such varying degrees of growth between each individual plant.
Right.
We did do, so I use a easy cloner for cloning, right? And I was just buying bottled spring water and putting in there, or using RO water from our spring to put in there, and then adjusting the pH and doing all of that. And then I started using the Kangen water in there. So normally I get roots in around 10 days.
Okay.
And I'm not thrilled with easy cloners, and some people have great success with them. I do okay with them. I get 75%, sometimes 50.
Okay.
I prefer rooting in a medium,
okay,
instead of air cloners. But I did get the best run that I ever had was when we did the Kangen water. We had like 99% success roots within 7 days using the Kangen water and the easy clone.
Oh wow.
Yeah, compared
That's
to
amazing.
usually best I do with that pretty much same recipe, just regular RO water, spring water, or sometimes our well water. I get at best 75%, sometimes 50.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're growing hemp here, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we got about 30 different strains of hemp.
Oh, wonderful.
So
that's amazing. Okay. And as far as the pest management, what did you notice? Did you have any problems with pests during the last 3 months? And what was that like?
I intentionally had problems. Right?
Okay.
So part of my breeding program is selecting for plants resistant to pests.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the state of Oregon, in their infinite wisdom, decided to spray broad-mites all over the county and Jackson here to control star thistle or some other thistle or whatever, but it's wreaked havoc on cannabis and hemp growers.
Right.
We also have aphids here, and obviously the two-spotted spider mite. Those are probably our 3 biggest pests. So I intentionally infested my plants with two-spotted spider mites, intentionally infested my plants with broad mites, and intentionally infested my plants with aphids, so that I could select those plants most resistant. Now, one thing that I noticed in watering with, doing soil drench with Kangen water, is plants became inherently, plants otherwise not so resistant to pests, built an immunity to pests somehow.
Oh,
right?
wow.
They slowly became more immune as they got more and more of the water. But then I started to say, okay, well, you know, you were like, do the acidic water and then the basic water back and forth, alternate between the two, and I did that. And I've been using, you know, we are an organic certified farm, and we're, you know, trying to get our biodynamic certification, so we have to be very careful about what we spray on our plants.
Mm-hmm.
We can't use, you know, the more common chemicals out there, and I don't think people should be using those chemicals on
Absolutely
medicine.
not. Yep.
So we look, you know, some things that we can use though, like 𝙃𝙚𝙢𝙥 is a really common OMRI listed. It's a soap, and it's relatively harmless. It washes off in a few days. So that is not very helpful when it comes to broad mites. It's so against spider mites and relatively useless against aphids, to be honest. I mean, it just doesn't do much.
Yeah.
The only other things that I've found effective are Grandivo, Venerate from Marone Biosciences. Those work really well, but they're expensive, especially if you're, you know, spraying every week as part of an IPM. And, you know, so with the Kangen water, I found it worked as well or better than Venerate and Grandivo, and much cheaper.
Right.
I mean, you're
By far.
5 pounds of Grandivos, $150, we'll say. 2.5 gallons of Venerates, $250.
How fast do you go through something like that?
On a farm this scale, we go through 2.5 gallons every, you know, month.
Wow.
So you're looking at $500 a month.
Right.
You know,
Versus
just
owning a machine.
versus owning the machine, and you know, and it works. I mean, the spider mite's probably one of the most difficult pests to get rid of, because they, and well, so are broad mites, but as a whole, spider mites are just a nuisance. And once you get them, they're very difficult. I don't know what the hell I was thinking, intentionally infesting my plants, other than for the good of the breeding program. But they're very difficult to get rid of, and when you're working with pesticides or biologicals, you have to fully cover the plant. Every crack, every crevice, even the top of the soil, sometimes the pots, and the room that it's in itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's much easier to get that coverage with a small amount of surfactant and the Kangen water than it is with a product like Grandivo, which can be kind of thick, pasty.
Okay.
So the spider mites can get away from the, you know, some of the pesticides, and they can't get away from that water when you just drink, because you can just drench.
Yep.
Because you don't have to worry about water harming your plant.
Exactly.
Like that was one thing. I've burned plants with Grandivo. I've burned plants with Venerate. I've burned plants with 𝙃𝙚𝙢𝙥. I've burned plants with just about every pesticide I've ever used, even spraying at lighter concentrations than recommended. I've never burned a plant with the Kangen water.
Wow.
Matter of fact, I would have to say plants usually look happier and healthier after being sprayed, and and it's eliminating the pests.
Right. Right. Because
So-
you're sterilizing with the 2.5 strong acidic water. You're sterilizing the
Yeah.
plant,
Yeah.
and then they just love the 11.5
Right.
when you go and spray that on
Yeah.
them.
And so and then after a treatment, one thing I would do is I would come back with, so I make my own lactobacillus cultures, and I would, I would clean my plant. Basically, I would spray the acidic and basic water, and then I would come back with a labs and do foliar, and man, the plants love it.
Oh, wow.
I mean, they loved it.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's awesome. And what size farm do you have going on here?
Well, we'll have about 5.5 acres under cultivation this year.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
So nice, good size.
Yeah, we'll have
industrial.
around 12,000 plants total.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So various, like I said, this is a research and development farm for genetics. So we're running a lot of new cultivars. We're running, a lot of stuff that we've made over the past year or two. A lot of stuff that's out there, and we're hunting for specific phenos. We're looking for different cannabinoid contents, and that's something I'd like to look at in the future too. Is how does Kangen water, in improving the plant's overall health, how does that impact terpene production? How does that impact, CBD production in our case, or THC production in another farm's case?
Right.
Overall healthier plants seem to produce more flavonoids, terpenoids, cannabinoids.
Right.
So, what kind of impact does Kangen water have on microbial life in the soil? We run living soils here.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little worried at first. I was like, well, what might this do to these living organisms?
Mm-hmm.
I have not noticed any kind of negative impact at all.
Right. Absolutely.
Probably opposite for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think my last question is, would you recommend Kangen water to other growers, and why?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, if you want to grow the same plants you've been growing for however long you've been growing, keep using the same water you've been using. Like I said at the beginning of this, after using the machine, I don't feel all water is created equal. I think you give yourself a little bit of an edge using the Kangen machine, because it just generates healthier plants. I mean, you can use it for supplying water and nutrients to, and something else, I think that the Kangen water helps in the bioavailability of the nutrients. I think the physical composition, the physical makeup of the Kangen water helps make nutrients more available to the plant, right? So you're seeing a faster uptake of nutrients, so you're seeing that response. And I mean, we're getting faster growth, we're getting happier, healthier plants, we're getting, just faster clones. It's just, I haven't had any negative experience, and I can't see why. There's no way I wouldn't recommend this to somebody. So when you're in flower and you have a bug problem, spider mites specifically, but broad mites or whatever, it becomes exponentially more difficult to rid yourself of that problem, because the bugs have so many more places to hide within the flower of the plant. It's near impossible to get that pesticide to where it needs to be. Water, being less viscous than most of the pesticides out there, makes it easier to get to. And then not only that, but you don't have those pesticides dried up, the residuals inside your flower. You're using water.
Right.
So you fill up a 5-gallon bucket of Kangen water. You dip your plant in it. You set it back down. Tomorrow that plant's going to be dry, it's going to be clean, and it's going to kill the bugs.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you use, 𝙃𝙚𝙢𝙥 or green cleaner. You dip your plant in that and you set it back down. It's not, because it's a soapy substance, it's going to create surface tension and form a bubble, which is going to prevent it from getting into all the cracks and crevices.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's also going to leave a residue on your plant that you either have to wash off or deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have that with the Kangen water.
That's amazing.
So it's hands down, Kangen water way over pesticides.
Right.
Any day.
It's a game changer.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Absolutely. Thank you. And I'll just add to that and say, for the pest management side of things, when you go into any of your grow shops and look for all your different options on pest management, doesn't matter what you have, none of them you can use to water the plants with. to make the plants healthier. So
exactly
you're
right.
getting this 2-for-1 that you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah, what else? What else? Can not only you water your plants, but you can also treat pests.
Right.
And not only are you being able to treat pests, but you treat pests effectively, and you guarantee that at the end of the year, when you harvest your product and it goes to testing, you're going to have one of the cleanest products out there.
Right. That's exactly right. Right.
So I mean, your test results are going to come back clean.
Yeah.
And that can mean the difference between a sell and not.
And potentially losing your crop if you come out.
Absolutely.
You know, if you fail your tests.
Absolutely.
So and you drank the water too, didn't you? I mean, it's good for your health as well.
Oh yeah.
What did you notice? Anything?
Oh yeah, huge difference. Almost like energy drink. Like, it was crazy. It was like, yeah.
Yeah, and you're working hours out in the sun and the heat.
Yeah, we put in long hours. Yeah.
So that's great.